What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. I think I've been doing these musical biographies, primarily on unsung musical talent. I think I've been doing them for a year now. If I'm not mistaken, I think uh, the first subject of this was Chris Bender. Before YouTube really started shadow banning me to the extreme, I think that video got about 5 or 6 thousand views in about 3 weeks. I think it was the first one. But for the most part, with the exception of a few big artists, huge, long-term, successful artists, most of these artists have been unsung. By unsung, I mean either they were destined for great superstardom, but personal tragedy or personal demons, or some ill-fated event prevented that ascent to supremacy. Or they fall in the category where they put out a hit or two, and then they didn't make the adjustments in the changing musical taste and fickleness of the audience, and they became quote unquote one hit wonders. El DeBarge, I think, falls under the former. Um, he put out material. He put out some great songs, but unfortunately, his addiction to drugs and his battles with depression derailed his career, unfortunately. However, if you're in my generation, you're very familiar with El DeBarge. You're very familiar with the DeBarge family. Look, two of the movies I grew up watching, they were connected to. Short Circuit, Barry Gordy's Last Dragon. You know, in that in that I'd say mid going into late '80s period, El DeBarge looked as if he was going to be a huge breakaway star. But then everything just went wrong. Everything just went wrong for him. Um, but he had everything going for him, man. He was talented. He could sing. You know, he had the look, the style. Uh, he had that it factor that it takes to be a huge star. Um, but he never totally went away. He had his ups and downs, and he's still out there, still today, and he's overcome and he's shown what perseverance is all about, you know. But he was born in 1961. He grew up in Detroit and was raised in Detroit and Grand Rapids, a la Floyd Mayweather. Um, but a he didn't have the best childhood. You know, his parents had a tumultuous marriage that involved domestic abuse on their part, more the father to the mother, and child abuse, which scarred El DeBarge and probably had something to do with, on some psychological level, probably had something to do with his later subsequent drug issues. And he was never close to his father. His father died back in 2009, I think at age 75 or 76. And he's never talked much about his relationship with his father or other elements of his childhood. But anyway, El DeBarge sang in his local church choir and played piano as a child. After his family moved from Detroit to Grand Rapids, he and the rest of his family began performing at their uncle's Pentecostal church. When El was 13, his parents divorced after a difficult and stormy marriage. As far as his ethnic background is concerned, El DeBarge is of African American, Native American, English, and French descent. Growing up, he was closest to his oldest brother, Bobby. and began imitating his brother's vocal styling. For several years, L spent time in private study with music educator Ricky Collier. By the mid 1970s, L had begun to express a desire to become a performer. He became a father for the first time when he was only 16 years old and eventually had 12 children. He dropped out of high school and began performing with his older brothers in clubs and ventures in Michigan. By 1979, Bern Leiches, who was their manager, was able to secure a deal with Source Records MCA to release the Pall Mall Groove Hot Ice album as Smash for the US Canada market and moved L from Michigan to Los Angeles to have him, his brothers Mark and Randy DeBarge, in addition to their cousin Andre Abney, Elliot Townsend, and Stanley Hood to back up the release as the Smash Band. His eldest sister Bunny joined her brothers in California as well. The next year, because of the success of their brothers Bobby and Tommy DeBarge with the hit group Switch, L was able to perform live at the piano and sing in front of Motown CEO Berry Gordy, who immediately signed the group, then known as the DeBarges, to the label. Motown mentored them, and members later worked with and contributed songwriting arrangements and production to the recordings of Switch, including the 1980 albums This Is My Dream and Reaching for Tomorrow. L's first professional recording was as background vocalist to Switch's 1979 hit I Call Your Name. In 1981, the DeBarges was released after the family had worked in the studio for a year recording it. The album was noted for most of its songs produced and written by all four family members, including Bobby DeBarge, who helped end the album track Queen of My Heart, after L had led the song for most of his tenure. The following album, 1982's All This Love, featured younger brother James and saw much success with the compositions I Like It, Ooh, and I Like It, and the title track, All This Love. L would remain the producer and arranger for all of the group's Motown albums. The next year, 83, DeBarge released In a Special Way, which spawned the hits Time Will Reveal and Love Me in a Special Way. And the next year, 1984, a great, great year in history and music in general, 1984. The band became a sensation while touring for Luther Vandross on the singer's Busybody Tour. Though the group enjoyed much success and appeared to be a family unit, there was growing tensions between L and his brothers because of the fact that the uh, it was a push to have L by Motown to be pretty much the breakaway solo star. And, this is something that you saw with Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, James Brown and his group. Uh, it, and, that caused tension. And increasingly, it became El DeBarge being the face. By the end of the tour, El DeBarge was mainly called to handle the production of DeBarge's next album, Rhythm of the Night, without much help from his siblings. The DeBarge family had one more album, although El and Bobby weren't on the album. Rhythm of the Night became the group's best-selling album ever, although some contended that El DeBarge was the only member present on the album with the exception of the title track, which became a top 5 hit in several countries, including the US and UK becoming the group's and L's signature song. That video is featured, or at least portions of the video, is featured on Berry Gordy's The Last Dragon uh, great music, great movie if you haven't seen it. And the beat of the rhythm of the night, dance until the morning light. Don't forget about your worries on your mind, 'cause you can leave them all behind. The rhythm of the night. Doom, 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 doom. Man, fuck this music today, man. I can't fuck with that shit, man. All right, I get back in character. Okay. Anyway, get back in my narration character mode. So where was I? In late '85, El DeBarge appeared on The Facts of Life in the season 7 episode Duar as himself and performed his single "You Wear It Well." Also that same year, El DeBarge made an appearance on the TV show Miami Vice on the episode "Bought and Paid For," where he performed his two songs "You Wear It Well" and "Rhythm of the Night." In 1986, El DeBarge left the group and began his solo career with the release of his self-titled debut album, which spawned the hits "Who's Johnny" and "Love Always." That particular year, his song "Who's Johnny" appeared on the movie soundtrack of the movie Short Circuit. There was also an individual music video made with um, El DeBarge singing that song "Who's Johnny" as well. I think they were in a courtroom or something. 3 years later, however, until DeBarge released his second album, Gemini, in 1989. The album had two hits, Real Love and Somebody Loves You. DeBarge's contract with Motown was terminated in 1990, and he signed with Warner Brothers. In the meantime, DeBarge was featured on the Quincy Jones single, The Secret Garden, alongside Al B. Sure, James Ingram, and Barry White, released in 1990. That's another great damn song, too, uh, for you youngins out there. That's a great damn song, Secret Garden. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about, let me ask you guys a question. I'm thinking about bringing back Mr. Soul Music, okay? For those who still listen to this video, I'm thinking about bringing back Mr. Soul Music. Now, my other channel, I can't get into that one. It's been so long since I've been active, and it's virtually impossible for me to get into that channel because of YouTube's security measures. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, fuck that channel. But I'm thinking about bringing back Mr. Soul Music, um, another version of it. Tell me what you guys think about that, because I'm thinking about uploading, you know, some music again. You know what I'm saying? Some old school music. But I might put it to a vote in the community. I think that's what I'll do. I think that's what I'll do. I'll do it today. All right. But moving on, in 1992, DeBarge released his third album, the Maurice White produced In the Storm, which featured the Shantae Moore duet, You Know What I Like, which was Moore's first professional recording. Critics noted the album for its Marvin Gaye style production. El DeBarge later admitted that Gaye was a huge influence on his musical style and once commented that he had initially written All This Love as a song he imagined Gaye doing. He even imitated Gaye's ad-libs during his I Want You era near the end. That same year, El had chart success on the R&B charts with a collaboration with Foreplay on his version of Gaye's After the Dance. DeBarge's next album, 1994's Heart, Mind, and Soul, co-produced with Babyface, yielded modest charted singles such as Slide and Where's My Love. Now, unfortunately, there had been times when El DeBarge's drug issues have played a factor in his career. they had presented themselves as early as the 80s, but I guess he's what you would have called at that time maybe a functional drug addict, but he was still able to produce and do and make great music. But I think it was the death of his brother in 1995, Bobby, that really had an effect on him. Once his brother passed away in 1995, El DeBarge really went off the wagon when it came to drugs, possibly alcohol, mental issues, and he disappeared from music. And by the mid 1990s, DeBarge's addiction problems resulted in his career faltering after his peaks in the 80s. In 2001, DeBarge was arrested for cocaine possession, was given probation. In 2006, he was arrested again for possession of a controlled substance and was once again given probation. The next year, he was arrested in a domestic dispute and was held without bail. The charges were later dropped. Later that same year, he was arrested yet again, charged with cocaine possession and given probation. However, he was once again arrested in 2008 for possession of crack and drug paraphernalia, breaking the terms of his probation. For this violation, he was immediately sentenced to 2 years in state prison in California. Following a prison sentence, which he served 13 months, DeBarge announced that he had found sobriety after an addiction that he said had lasted nearly 25 years, stating that he had also acknowledged his problems with the law in the past. In February 2011, while promoting his 2010 album, Second Chance, DeBarge's label announced that the singer was canceling all public dates and appearances as he went back to rehab following a relapse. DeBarge later returned to work and made an appearance at the 54th Grammy Awards in February of 2012. I don't know at this point the state of El DeBarge's health. From what I can best tell, he still battles the demons, and you hope for the best. You wish for the fairy tale ending. We want that, but more often than not, you get the endings that you see with the Rick James, the Kurt Cobains, you know, the Jim Morrison, the Janis Joplin. You tend to see those types of endings, unfortunately. But we're rooting for El DeBarge and hope that he, completely extinguishes his you know, his lust for um, paraphernalia. I guess so. I can put it right. Um, you know, but tell me what you guys think. Okay.